I've killed men for less than the look she just gave me. The sound of the mahogany door locking behind her echoes through my corner office, 53 floors above Seoul, where the city lights blur into nothing but expensive silence. She doesn't turn around, doesn't flinch, just stands there with her back straight, tablet clutched against her cream blouse like it's armor, staring at the skyline as if she's calculating her odds. Smart woman. For 2 years, Naomi Price has been invisible. The perfect secretary. Early, efficient, forgettable. She floated through my world like a ghost, bringing coffee at precisely 7:14 a.m., color-coding files I'd never asked her to organize, leaving before the real work began. I prefer it that way. In my line of business, the less people see, the longer they live. But 20 minutes ago, she saw something she shouldn't have. A single file, encrypted, buried 6 layers deep in our company's server under a folder labeled 2019 Tax Contingencies. Boring enough that no one would ever look. Except she did. And now she knows the Choi family fortune isn't built on semiconductors and real estate. It's built on blood, laundered through 37 shell corporations across 4 continents. Worse, she knows her name is on a list. A very specific list of loose ends my uncle wants resolved before the annual board meeting. I should be calling my cleanup crew. Instead, I'm watching the way her shoulders rise and fall with each controlled breath, the way her fingers tighten on that tablet, and I'm thinking about something my father once told me. The most dangerous weapon isn't a gun, Tae-jun. It's a witness with nothing left to lose. Naomi Price just became that weapon. Mr. Choi, she says, her voice steady despite the locked door. Despite the fact that she's alone with a man whose neck tattoo crawls out of his collar like a warning label. I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Miss Price. I move closer, slow and deliberate, until I'm close enough to smell the faint jasmine of her perfume mixing with fear. You accessed a restricted file. You saw information that could destroy this company. That makes you either incredibly stupid or incredibly brave. She finally turns, and for the first time in 2 years, I actually see her. Wide brown eyes that refuse to drop, full lips pressed into a defiant line, the kind of quiet strength that comes from surviving in rooms where you're always underestimated. I'm efficient, she says. You told me to audit the Q3 discrepancies. That file was misfiled under. I know what you found. I lean against my desk, arms crossed, studying her like she's a problem I need to solve or eliminate. The question is, what do we do about it? The city hums below us. The office is empty. My security team is positioned outside. One word from me, and Naomi Price disappears into the Han River by midnight. But she doesn't beg, doesn't cry. Instead, she lifts her chin and says the last thing I expect. We find out who's trying to frame you. And just like that, the invisible secretary becomes the most fascinating problem I've ever had. She was just a secretary, until she became my greatest liability, my fiercest ally, and the only person in this blood-soaked empire I'd burn it all down to protect. This is the story of how a locked door became the beginning of everything. She found the file at 5:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I know because I was in a meeting with my uncle's accountants 3 floors down, listening to them explain why we needed to resolve 2 more names before the quarterly audit. Boring. Necessary. The kind of conversation that happens in conference rooms with soundproof walls and no windows. Then my phone buzzed. A single alert from our security system. Restricted file accessed. Executive level. User. N.Price. I excused myself, took the private elevator up, and watched her through the camera feed on my phone. Naomi sat frozen at her desk, staring at her laptop screen like it had just grown teeth. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. Down, down, down through 47 names, 47 photographs, 47 problems my family had permanently solved. I watched her face cycle through confusion, horror, and then that specific shade of terror that comes when someone realizes they've seen too much. Smart girl. She understood immediately. What fascinated me was what she did next. No screaming, no running. She simply closed the laptop with shaking hands, stood up with her purse, and headed for the elevator like she might actually make it out of the building alive. I almost let her try, but then she stopped, turned back to her desk, deleted her browser history, cleared her cache, even wiped down her keyboard with a sanitizing cloth like she could erase the evidence of her curiosity. Methodical. Controlled. The same efficiency she brought to organizing my calendar now applied to covering her tracks. That's when I knew she wasn't just another disposable secretary. I met her at the elevator. She nearly jumped out of her skin when the doors opened, and I was standing there, perfectly still, watching her with the same expression I used during contract negotiations. "Mr. Choi," she breathed, clutching her purse like a shield. "I was just leaving. It's late, and my office, Miss Price." Her eyes darted to the emergency exit. I could see her calculating distances, weighing her chances. But she was wearing heels, and I had 8 security personnel positioned throughout the building. More importantly, she knew that running would confirm her guilt. So she walked. I followed 3 steps behind, close enough to smell the jasmine perfume now mixing with cold sweat, far enough to let her feel the weight of my presence. She kept her spine straight, her pace measured. Even terrified, she maintained her composure. Impressive. Inside my office, I closed the door, locked it. The sound made her flinch, but she didn't turn around. Just stood there facing the windows, the city lights reflecting in the glass, her silhouette small against the vast darkness of Seoul spreading out below us. "You accessed a restricted file," I said, moving to my desk. Q3_con and Jinches_2019. "I assume you saw the contents." "It was mislabeled," she said, voice barely steady. "I was following your instructions to audit the Q3 folders." "I didn't know. You saw 47 names, 47 resolutions. And I imagine you saw your own name at the bottom of that list." Her shoulders stiffened. She turned slowly, meeting my eyes for the first time with something that looked almost like defiance. "Am I on that list because I'm a liability?" she asked quietly. "Or because someone wants you to think I am?" And there it was. The question I've been asking myself for the past 3 weeks. The penthouse wasn't a suggestion. It was survival. "Pack a bag," I told her at midnight, standing in the doorway of her modest apartment in Gangnam. 300 square feet of IKEA furniture and student loan anxiety. "You have 10 minutes. She stood in her kitchenette, still wearing that cream blouse from the office, mascara smudged under her eyes from hours of interrogation that had slowly transformed into strategy. "I'm not going anywhere with you. Your name appeared on that list 3 weeks ago, Miss Price. The same day my uncle's quarterly review began. Either you're the mole he planted in my organization, or you're the bait he's using to test my loyalty." I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. "Either way, staying here makes you an easy target. So I'm supposed to trust the man whose murder spreadsheet I just read?" "No, you're supposed to trust that keeping you alive serves my interests." I glanced at my watch. 9 minutes. She grabbed a duffel bag from her closet with shaking hands, throwing in clothes without looking at them. Jeans, sweaters, a framed photo of what looked like her mother. When she emerged from the bathroom with toiletries, I noticed she'd changed into sneakers, still planning to run. "The building has 12 exits," I said as we walked to the elevator. "All monitored. There are 3 cars following us right now. 2 are mine, 1 isn't. If you run, I can't protect you from whoever sent the 3rd car." She got in the elevator without another word. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of Hanamdong's most exclusive tower, the kind of building where residents include tech CEOs, K-pop executives, and men like me who need bulletproof windows and private elevator access. We rode up in silence, Naomi staring at her reflection in the polished steel doors while I watched her process the reality of her situation. When the doors opened directly into my living room, she froze. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River. Furniture that cost more than her annual salary. Original artwork I'd acquired through channels that didn't ask questions about provenance. Everything white, black, and chrome. Beautiful and sterile, like a museum exhibit titled "How Murderers Live." "The guest room is down the hall," I said, setting down her bag. "Bathroom is stocked. Kitchen is open. Don't go near the office on the 2nd floor, and don't touch anything in the library." She turned slowly, taking in the space with wide eyes. "How long am I staying here?" "Until I find out who put your name on that list and why." I loosened my tie, suddenly exhausted. "Or until I confirm you're working with my uncle, in which case your stay becomes significantly shorter." "I'm not working with anyone." then you have nothing to worry about. She laughed, sharp and bitter. I'm living with a man who has a murder spreadsheet. I have everything to worry about. I pour myself whiskey from the bar cart. Watch the amber liquid catch the city lights. Welcome to my world, Miss Price. The doors are locked from the outside. Security is posted on every floor. And if you're very lucky, you'll live long enough to hate me properly. She dropped her bag and walked to the windows, pressing her palm against the glass like she could push through it and fly away. I almost told her not to bother. I've been trying to escape this life for 20 years. The glass never breaks. She didn't sleep. I know because I didn't either. At 3 a.m., I found her in the kitchen, barefoot in an oversized sweater, staring at my espresso machine like it was a nuclear reactor. The city sprawled below us in neon silence. And for a moment, we were just two insomniacs trapped in a glass tower. It's Italian, I said from the doorway. Temperamental, like most expensive things. She jumped, then straightened her spine in that defiant way I was beginning to recognize. I was just making coffee. I know. I couldn't sleep either. I moved past her, started the machine with practiced efficiency. Espresso or Americano? Are we really doing this? Small talk? Like you didn't kidnap me? I prefer protective custody. 2 cups. Dark roast. The machine hissed and groaned. And yes, we're doing this. Because in approximately 4 hours, my uncle is calling an emergency board meeting to discuss personnel security concerns. Which means he's moving against me, and you're his opening gambit. She accepted the cup I offered, wrapping both hands around it like she needed the warmth. Why me? I am nobody. Just a secretary who files your papers and brings your coffee. Exactly. You're invisible. Trustworthy. You've had access to my office, my files, my schedule for 2 years. If someone wanted to plant evidence of embezzlement or corporate espionage, you'd be the perfect scapegoat. I leaned against the counter, studying her face in the dim light. Or the perfect spy. I'm not a spy. Then prove it. She looked up sharply. Ow, work for me. Really work for me. Not as a secretary, but as an investigator. I set down my cup, pulled out my phone, showed her the encrypted file she'd found. Someone put your name on this list 3 weeks ago. Same person has been moving money through shell accounts, manipulating ledgers, setting up my organization for a federal investigation. I need to know who, and if I say no, then I can't protect you. The moment you leave this building, my uncle's people will pick you up. You'll disappear into the same black hole as those 47 names you saw. Quietly, efficiently, like you never existed. Her hands trembled around the cup. That's not a choice. That's a threat. It's reality, Miss Price. You saw something you shouldn't have. Now you either help me fix it, or you become another line item marked resolved. I moved closer, close enough to see the exhaustion bruising her eyes, the fear she was trying so hard to hide. I'm offering you a third option. Survive this. Help me find the mole, expose my uncle's play, and maybe, just maybe, we both get out of this alive. What makes you think I can find anything you can? Because whoever is doing this knows how I think. They've anticipated my moves for months. But they don't know you. They underestimated you. That makes you the only advantage I have. She was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee like it held answers. When she finally looked up, there was something harder in her eyes. Something that looked almost like calculation. If I do this, she said slowly, I want full access. Files, meetings, everything. No more locked doors. I smiled. Deal. The dress arrived at noon in a black box with no label. I found Naomi in the guest room, staring at it like I'd sent her a bomb. Silk the color of midnight, backless, with a slit that would reach mid-thigh. The kind of dress that costs more than most people's cars and says exactly one thing. Property of someone dangerous. Absolutely not, she said. Tonight's meeting is at the Lotus Club. Underground. Invitation only. Every major player in Seoul's financial underworld will be there, including my uncle and whoever he's working with. I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. You'll attend as my fiancé. Listen, watch. Tell me who seems too interested in you. I'm not wearing that. You are. Because secretaries don't get invited to these meetings, but my future wife does. And right now, you need to be someone worth protecting publicly. I check my watch. Car leaves at 8. Hair and makeup team arrives at 6. She held up a dress, examining it with the same analytical focus she applied to spreadsheets. This isn't protection. This is parading me around like bait. Yes, I said simply. That's exactly what it is. At 8:47 p.m., we descended into the Lotus Club through a private entrance in Gangnam, the kind of place that doesn't exist on any map, where Seoul's elite broker deals over 30-year whiskey and the bodies never surface. Naomi walked beside me in that dangerous dress, her hand resting in the crook of my arm with just enough tension to let me know she was calculating escape routes. I'd expected her to look uncomfortable, out of place. Instead, she transformed into someone entirely different, confident, composed, wearing expensive silk-like armor. Smile, I murmured as we entered the main room. You're madly in love with me. I'm madly plotting your murder, she whispered back, but she smiled anyway, brilliant and fake. My uncle spotted us immediately. He was holding court near the bar, surrounded by the same men who'd been slowly consolidating power against me for months. His eyes narrowed when he saw Naomi, then widened with something that looked almost like recognition. Interesting. Tae-jun, he said, approaching with a predator's smile. You didn't mention you were bringing a guest. Miss Price isn't a guest. She's family. I pulled Naomi closer, possessive. We're engaged. The room went quiet. Every conversation stopped. My uncle's smile froze into something sharp and calculating. Engaged, he repeated slowly. How unexpected. And when did this happen? Recently. Naomi's voice was steady, confident. She extended her left hand, where I'd placed a diamond that morning, my mother's ring, actually, though I didn't tell her that. Tae-jun has been very private about our relationship. For obvious reasons. Obviously, my uncle studied her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. And what is it you do, Miss Price? I'm his executive secretary. Have been for 2 years. How convenient. The conversation shifted, but I felt Naomi's hand tighten on my arm. She'd seen it too. The flash of anger in my uncle's eyes, quickly hidden. The way his associate whispered something urgent in his ear. The sudden tension rippling through their group. They knew her. Or at least, they knew about her. We circulated through the room for an hour, Naomi playing her role perfectly. Charming, forgettable, exactly the kind of trophy fiancé these men would expect. But I watched her eyes, saw her cataloging faces, memorizing conversations, building a mental map of alliances and tensions. In the car ride home, she finally spoke. Your uncle's accountant, she said quietly. The one with the Rolex. He's been skimming money through subsidiary accounts for 8 months. I recognized his signature on the authorization forms. I turned to look at her. How do you know that? Because I'm very good at my job, Mr. Choi. She met my eyes in the darkness. And because someone needs to keep you from getting killed. I found her on the rooftop garden at 2 a.m., still wearing that dangerous dress, barefoot among the carefully manicured bonsai trees my father had collected before he died. She didn't turn when I approached. Just kept staring at the city lights like they might offer her an escape route she hadn't considered yet. You should be sleeping, I said. So should you. She hugged herself against the November cold. But here we are, 2 insomniacs in a garden that costs more to maintain than most people's houses. I shrugged off my jacket, draped it over her shoulders. She flinched at the gesture, but didn't refuse it. Your uncle's accountant, she said quietly. The one I identified tonight. What happens to him now? He'll be handled. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you. I moved to the railing beside her, kept a careful distance. You want me to lie? Tell you he'll get a stern warning and early retirement. I want you to tell me how someone like you ends up running an empire built on murder. She turned to face me, and in the moonlight, I could see the exhaustion written across her features. Because you don't seem like a monster, Mr. Choi. You seem like someone who became one. No one had ever asked me that. Not in 20 years. I was 16, I heard myself say. My father called me into his office, the same office you work in now. Told me a board member had been embezzling millions, threatening to expose the family's offshore accounts to federal investigators. Said it was a test of loyalty. Of manhood. Naomi was quiet, waiting. He handed me a gun, drove me to a warehouse in Incheon. Made me watch while his men beat that board member until he stopped breathing. The memory tasted like rust and shame. Then he told me I had 2 choices, take over the family business when he died, or join the board member in that warehouse. Those are my only options. Legacy or death. You could have run. To where? With what resources? I was 16, Naomi. A kid who was good at math and terrible at disappointing his father. I laughed bitter. So I studied business at Seoul National University, applied mathematics at Cambridge, learned how to launder money through legitimate channels, how to make blood look like quarterly profits. Became exactly what my father wanted, a monster in an expensive suit. She was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then, why are you telling me this? Because you asked, and because if we're going to survive this together, you need to understand what you're dealing with. I turned to face her fully. I'm not a good man, Miss Price. I've authorized things that would keep you awake for years. But I'm trying to be better than my father. Trying to build something that doesn't require a body count. Is that possible? In your world? I don't know. But you're the first person in 20 years who's made me think it might be. I reached out, almost touched her face, then stopped myself. My uncle wants the old ways. More violence. More control. He thinks I've gone soft, and he's using you to prove it. Have you gone soft? I looked at her standing in my jacket, barefoot among my dead father's trees, defiant and terrified and somehow still fighting. Maybe, I admitted, or maybe I'm just tired of being the monster everyone expects. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell jasmine and fear and something else, something that felt dangerously like trust. Then let's kill the monster together, she whispered. The phone call came during breakfast. Naomi was reviewing financial records at the kitchen island, coffee going cold beside her laptop. That same focused intensity she brought to everything. 3 days of digging through my uncle's accounts, and she found a pattern. Money moving through a charity foundation, disappearing into offshore accounts, then reappearing as consulting fees paid to shell corporations. She was close. Too close. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Tayon. My uncle's voice, smooth and poisonous. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Naomi looked up, saw my expression, went very still. What do you want? I asked. To discuss your situation. The American secretary you've been hiding in your penthouse. Quite the risk, nephew. Bringing an outsider into family business. Background noise on his end. Traffic voices the echo of a large space. But I suppose love makes us all foolish. Get to the point. The point is sitting in a warehouse in Incheon. 2 women, early 60s and late 20s. They look remarkably like Miss Price, wouldn't you say? A pause. Oh, you should see your face right now. Yes, we're watching. We're always watching. Naomi stood up slowly, hands pressed flat against the counter. What is he saying? I muted the phone. Your mother. Your sister. He has them. The color drained from her face. No, they're in Atlanta. They're safe. I just talked to them yesterday. Did you? My uncle's voice came through the speaker now. Unmuted. Or did you talk to very talented voice actresses? Technology is remarkable these days, Miss Price. Your mother's speech patterns. Your sister's laugh. All easily replicated for a simple phone call. You son of a... Now, let's be civilized. I could hear the smile in his voice. Here's what happens next. You have 12 hours to transfer operational control of the Choice Syndicate to me. All accounts, all territory, all contracts. Sign everything over. Announce your retirement from the family business, and Miss Price's family goes home safely. And if I refuse, then they join the other 47 names on that list, along with Miss Price herself. A pause. Oh, and Taejun, don't bother sending your security team. The warehouse is rigged with enough C4 to vaporize a city block. Any approach within 50 meters triggers the detonation. So choose carefully, your empire or 3 women you barely know. The line went dead. Naomi was already moving, grabbing her laptop, pulling up maps of Incheon. Where is usual warehouses? Which district? We need to. Naomi, stop. Stop. He has my family. My mother, my sister. Her voice cracked. You said you'd protect me. You promised. I promised to protect you. Not them. The words felt like knives coming out. And going after them is exactly what he wants. It's a trap designed to make me act emotionally, make mistakes. She stared at me like I'd struck her. So what, we just Let them die. We think. Strategically. But even as I said it, I was calculating distances, assembling my team in my head, knowing that everything I'd built for 20 years was about to collapse because of one woman's brown eyes and the way she refused to stop fighting. My uncle was right about one thing. Love made us all foolish. Get dressed, I told her. We're going to Incheon. We were 20 minutes from Incheon when Naomi stopped me. Pull over, she said. We don't have time. Pull over. Something in her voice made me obey. I guided the car to the shoulder, killed the engine. Behind us, my security convoy did the same, waiting for orders that might get us all killed. Naomi turned to face me, and I saw something new in her expression. Not fear, not defiance, but cold calculation. The same look she got when solving impossible problems in spreadsheets. This is what he wants, she said. You, emotional and reckless, rushing into a trap. Your security team getting blown up. You signing over everything to save 3 people, then getting killed anyway because you're a liability. She pulled out her tablet. But he made one mistake. What mistake? He assumed I was just a secretary. Her fingers flew across the screen, pulling up files, bank records, authorization codes I didn't even know she had access to. For 2 years, I processed every transaction in your company, every wire transfer, every subsidiary payment. I have administrative access to 47 different accounts across 12 countries. You shouldn't have that access. I know. Your IT security is terrible. I've been meaning to mention it. She was typing faster now, her face illuminated by the screen's glow. Your uncle's money, all of it, flows through that charity foundation I found. Children's Education Fund of Korea. Very noble. Very fake. Naomi, what are you doing? Bankrupting him. She looked up, smiled, sharp and dangerous. Every account he's been hiding money in for the past 3 years. I'm transferring it. All of it. To holding accounts he can't touch without your authorization. That's over $200 million. 247 million, actually. I'm very good with numbers. Her fingers kept moving. By the time we reach that warehouse, your uncle will have received notification that his entire financial network has collapsed. No money means no leverage. No leverage means no power. He'll kill your family out of spite. No, he won't. Because the moment he does, you release everything to the federal prosecutors. Every file, every name, every photograph. She met my eyes. You're willing to burn down your empire to save me. So I'm willing to burn down his empire to save my family. That's the deal. I'd spent 20 years learning to read people, their tells, their weaknesses, the exact moment they'd break. But Naomi wasn't breaking. She was evolving into something I hadn't anticipated. Someone exactly like me. If we do this, I said slowly, there's no going back. My uncle will come for both of us. Full war. Then we'd better win. She hit the final key, and I watched $247 million disappear from my uncle's accounts. Now call him. Tell him you'll meet at the warehouse in an hour. Alone. I'm not going alone. Yes, you are. Because I won't be there. She showed me her screen, a different map, a different location. While you're talking to him, I'll be breaking into his estate in Pyeongchang-dong. He keeps physical records. Insurance. I'm going to find every piece of evidence he has and burn it. That's suicide. So, is rushing into a rigged warehouse. She grabbed my face, forced me to look at her. Trust me. The way I trusted you when you locked that office door. The way I trusted you when you brought me to your home. Trust that I know what I'm doing. My phone buzzed. A message from my uncle. Time's running out, nephew. I looked at Naomi, this woman who'd been invisible for 2 years, who'd somehow become the only person I'd ever trusted completely. Okay, I said. We do it your way. She kissed me then, quick and desperate, tasting like coffee and fear and something that might have been hope. Don't die, she whispered. You either. The warehouse was empty. No hostages. No uncle. Just a burner phone on a metal chair in the center of a concrete floor, ringing in the silence like a death knell. I answered it already knowing what he'd say. Did you really think I'd be that predictable? My uncle's voice amused. The warehouse was a distraction, Taejun. While you've been playing hero, I've been taking what's mine. See you at the office. The line went dead. I was in the car and breaking every traffic law in Seoul before my driver could close the door. Naomi. She'd gone to his estate while he'd gone to mine. We'd both been outmaneuvered. The tower lobby was chaos when I arrived, security alarms blaring, civilians being evacuated, my own security team and lockdown protocol. I took the private elevator straight to the executive floor, my gun drawn, every instinct screaming that I was already too late. The 53rd floor was dark, silent. Emergency lights casting red shadows across the reception area where Naomi used to sit, organizing my life with perfect efficiency. I found her in my office. She was backed against the windows, blood streaming from a cut above her eyebrow, facing down 3 of my uncle's men. And standing between them, wearing my company security uniform, was Jin Ho, my head of personal security for 8 years. The man I'd trusted with my life. The mole. "I'm sorry, sir," Jin Ho said, gun trained on Naomi. "It's just business. Your uncle made a better offer." "How long?" I kept my weapon low, non-threatening, calculating angles. 2 years. Since the day you hired her." He gestured at Naomi with the gun. "I was supposed to eliminate her after she found the files. But your uncle wanted to use her. Bait to draw you out, test your loyalty. Turns out you failed that test spectacularly. She's not part of this. She's everything. The moment you chose her over the family, you became a liability." Jin Ho's finger moved to the trigger. "Nothing personal, Miss Price." Naomi moved. I'd forgotten she'd spent 3 weeks studying my security protocols, memorizing weapons placements, learning emergency procedures. She dropped, rolled, came up with the spare Glock I kept in the bottom desk drawer, the one only my secretary would know about. The shot was perfect. Center mass. Jin Ho went down hard. The other 3 raised their weapons, but I was already moving. 2 shots. 2 bodies. The 3rd ran for the elevator and met my security team coming up. Silence. Then sirens. Then Naomi, standing in broken glass and emergency lights, holding that gun like it was burning her hands. "I killed him," she whispered. "I just killed someone." I crossed to her, gently took the weapon, pulled her against me. She was shaking, shock setting in, the reality of violence crashing through her careful composure. "You saved my life," I said into her hair. "Your uncle escaped. He'll regroup, try again. Men like him always do." I pulled back, cupped her face. "But he lost his money, his mole, his leverage. We hurt him, Naomi. Badly." She looked around my destroyed office, bullet holes in the mahogany, blood on the marble, the city lights still glittering beyond the shattered windows like nothing had changed. "What happens now? Now we finish it. Together." I kissed her forehead. "And then we burn it all down and build something better." Blue and red lights flooded the windows below. My legitimate security team was securing the building. The police were 12 floors away. We had maybe 5 minutes before questions we couldn't answer. "Come on," I said, taking her hand. "Time to disappear." 2 years later, I'm standing in the same office where I once locked a door and changed both our lives forever. The windows have been replaced. The bullet holes patched. The blood scrubbed from marble that now reflects morning light instead of crime scene sirens. Everything looks different, but the view is the same. Seoul spreading out below us, glittering and indifferent to the small human dramas playing out in its towers. Naomi walks in wearing a charcoal suit that costs more than her entire first-year salary, carrying our 6-month-old daughter against her shoulder. Sophia, named after Naomi's grandmother, with my mother's eyes and her mother's defiant chin. She won't sleep, Naomi says, exhausted and beautiful. "I think she knows you're nervous about the board meeting." "I'm not nervous. You've rearranged your desk 3 times this morning." She crosses to me, transfers our daughter into my arms with the practiced ease of someone who's learned to navigate both boardrooms and motherhood. They're going to approve the restructuring proposal. We've spent 2 years cleaning every account, divesting every illegal asset, building legitimate revenue streams. The Choi Corporation is finally exactly what it pretended to be. I look down at Sophia, this tiny person who exists because her mother refused to be invisible and her father learned that some things are worth more than empires built on blood. My uncle disappeared 18 months ago. Interpol has a warrant. The federal prosecutors have testimonies from 47 families who finally got justice. Is syndicate fractured, absorbed, or went legitimate like ours? The old world is dying. Slowly, painfully, but dying. Do you ever miss it? I asked Naomi. The simplicity, when you were just a secretary who brought coffee and organized files. She laughs, comes to stand beside me at the windows. I was never just a secretary. I was always this person. I just didn't know it yet. She takes my free hand. You gave me that. When you locked that door, you saw something in me that I'd been hiding from the world. I saw someone who refused to be disposable. No, you saw someone worth choosing, worth protecting, worth building something better for. She looks at our daughter, sleeping now against my shoulder. Worth this. The intercom buzzes. My assistant, a middle-aged man with impeccable credentials and zero access to sensitive files, announces the board is ready. Naomi straightens my tie, kisses our daughter's forehead, then mine. Go be legitimate, Mr. Choi. I'll be in my office doing actual CFO work, not solving murders. Our office, I correct. Koshis, remember? Fine. Our office. She smiles, and I see echoes of that terrified woman who stood in this exact spot 2 years ago, refusing to break even when I gave her every reason to. Though I still think my desk should be bigger. Noted for the next renovation. She leaves, and I'm alone with my daughter in the office where I became someone better. The door is open. It's always open now.